You're scrolling a business listing website at 11 p.m. and a listing jumps out at you. It's profitable, listed at 2 times earnings, and it looks like a steal. You're ready to inquire on it, but stop, because that screen's not going to tell you what matters. Whether or not you're about to buy a business or buy a job. I bought 12 businesses, and one of the first that I bought, I put no money into, and it turned out to be one of the biggest lessons that I learned. It looked like a business, but it was actually a job in disguise. I just didn't have the knowledge to see that yet. So here's what nobody prepares you for. You're about to judge businesses based on their profit, how much they make, and how consistent they are. But no one teaches you how to understand whether or not it's an asset or if it's a trap. Every business sits on a line. On one end, a business that runs whether or not the owner shows up, and on the other side, a job with a logo. You pull the owner out, and everything just falls over. Your whole job before you fall in love with the price is to figure out which end of the line the business sits on. Because when you buy a business, you're really just swapping places with the owner. If you land on the wrong end, you didn't buy freedom, you just have a job that you can't get rid of. The whole question becomes whether or not you own the business or if it owns you. So I'm going to give you the one test that you can use to determine where you sit on this line. And it runs with a very simple picture, and that's the owner's chair. And this breaks into 3 separate checks, 3 ways to understand whether or not the business is secretly just the owner. And that's the face, the brain, and the hands. Run all 3 of these, and in 5 minutes or less, you'll find out what most buyers don't understand until after they've bought the business. The first number that you need to pay attention to is that 7 in 10 businesses that go on the market don't end up selling. They disappear. No buyer, listings pulled, and the business doesn't change hands. And most brokers cite that the reason that this happens is because the business is just the owner doing a job. There's no value underneath the company. It's really hard to sell a job, and most sellers are underprepared when they list their business for sale. Half the listings that you're scrolling through are people who are about to find this out. So the first check is the face. Are customers choosing this business because of the owner? Picture a barber who's really difficult to get a booking with. He's booked 6 weeks out, he gets amazing reviews, and people will literally wait to get their hair cut by this guy. Every single review says that Tony is the man. Now, as soon as Tony leaves, his chair is empty, and customers aren't going to choose this barbershop anymore because the business was built around Tony. They're loyal to them, they value a really good service, and if you can't fulfill any of this, they're not likely to continue to do business with you. They're not likely to continue to book with this barbershop. You see this in all relationship-orientated businesses. That's why it's really difficult to sell a real estate agency. People pick a realtor because they like the person or they know them. If you're operating in an industry that commands high trust, people really choose who they work with carefully. And obviously, people care about their hair. The second check is the brain. Can decisions and actions of the business actually take place without the owner in the room? One of the first businesses that I bought was a construction business. The owner was retiring and he wasn't working on the tools anymore, and he had actually failed to sell the company. Now, I did this deal no money down, so I didn't have financial risk in this business, but I can imagine that a lot of people buy businesses like this and actually put money on the table. What I inherited was a website and a phone number that was getting inquiries, but no actual skill to be able to complete the work that was coming through. Every part of the business he still had to teach, and it required complex knowledge about how to build these outdoor shelters that not many people had. So it was a really difficult skill to go and hire for. So everything past the sales process, like quoting, measuring, ordering, making recommendations, all needed to be done by the owner or someone had been operating deeply in this business. In scenarios like this, the owner is 100% still the business. Can you hire this skill, or is it something that the owner has learned and perfected over time? So imagine a precision welding business, one where the owner has worked in it for over 25 years. He's in his 60s, he's self-employed, maybe has a couple of factory hands that work alongside him, but no one that can work the specific machine that he works to his level of output. This isn't something that you can easily hire for, and if you're expecting to learn 25 years of experience in a handover, you're really mistaken. The entire value proposition of a business like that is built around that person and the actual skill that they have. Knowing these checks is the first part. But how can you use them to understand what kind of a business you're buying when the seller's on their best behavior and they're willing to do anything to just get rid of the business? The financials will show you one thing, but they'll never tell the story about how much the owner is actually subsidizing the value of the business with their own time and skill. So there are 2 tests that I run to figure this out. The first thing that I create is a copy of the owner's calendar. So I'll figure out what they're doing every day of the week at every time. Remember, you're trading places with the owner. So if they're welding at 10 a.m. or they're cutting hair at 4 p.m., you're the one who's going to need to replace that output. And if it's business critical and the financials can't support hiring the right person to do it, or you can't even find the right person to do it, you know that you're going to be in trouble. Now, this will actually lead to gaps in tasks that take place which just happen at random. When those tasks present themselves, the next question that you have to ask is who does these and when? If the answer is the owner and they do it whenever it pops up, you can understand that there's no rhythm and no one else in the business who can actually do anything, and that's going to land on you. And the second test that I run is I figure out when they last took a long break from the business and understand what happened. A green flag is when a business owner is actually taking regular breaks from the business, and they can travel for months or weeks on end, and there's no fear that the business isn't going to continue to run how it always had. But if they haven't taken a holiday in 10 or 20 years, then you need to understand that they're about to take one off of your cash, your poor decision. So real quick, while this is fresh, this test is one piece of the bigger map. I've put the whole path of buying a business in a 21-day email course. One short read per day, everything from spotting a good business to figuring out how much you should be paying through to due diligence. Everything's free and the link's in the description. So one short warning, you don't actually want to bolt from every single business that's owner run, because some of them are owner run by the limitations of the owner. Some owners aren't ready to actually relinquish control or actually delegate very simple tasks that can be delegated to other people. Don't set the expectation that you're going to pick a perfect business off of the shelf. In reality, most businesses that operate devoid of the owner are actually very sought after, even by the owner themselves. If the owner isn't in the business day to day, there's actually not a lot motivating them to actually sell it. If the bones of a business are good and it's not reliant on the owner, you can actually re-engineer the business to become a true asset. But you want to go into it knowing that that's the job that you're going to be doing. So that's the test. The face, are you buying the brand or the person? The brain, can decisions or actions take place without the owner? 3, the hands, can you hire the skill? When the chair is empty, what happens to the business? Now, before you go, run it on yourself and where you're currently working, or even in your business if you already own one. If you weren't in the chair, then what changes? What still persists? And what would fall to pieces? Most people do not like the answer to this question. I'm putting out one of these every single week, frameworks that I've used through business acquisition. No fluff, no buy a business with no money BS. If you're serious about owning a business in the future without being owned by one, then make sure you subscribe and catch the next video. If you're not just researching and you've got a live business that you're looking at, and you want my perspective on it, that's exactly what the Bring Your Deal session is for. So in the links below, you can book a time with me. I'll give you a quick 20-minute rundown on what I think about the business that you're looking at. It's all free and there's no pressure to buy anything. Now, the next video that I've got is the one that actually saves you the most money. It teaches you what you should actually be paying for a business. So don't miss it. And if it's up already, it's right there. Go on.